The hand that trembled on camera when Menglong couldn't hide his pain anymore. Under the dazzling lights of the stage, Menglong smiled, a smile so practiced, so convincing, that even the cameras couldn't see past it. To the millions watching, he was radiant, calm, composed, the perfect idol. But that night, for a brief second, his hand trembled. It was so subtle that most dismissed it as fatigue, a flicker of nervousness. Yet to those who rewatched the clip after his death, the trembling hand became something else entirely, a silent cry for help that no one answered. In his final weeks, Menglong appeared in several fan meets, interviews, and live sessions. He laughed, joked, and interacted as always, but his aura had changed. There was a heaviness in his voice, a quietness in his eyes. He still spoke with grace, still reached for his fans' hands, but the warmth that once defined him now felt forced. The glow was dimming, and the cameras, so used to capturing his perfection, had unknowingly recorded his breaking point. During his last live fan meeting, one clip circulated online. He was seated on a stool, microphone in hand, answering light-hearted questions about his next project. A fan shouted his name with so much love that he chuckled softly and raised his hand to wave. But the camera caught something that fans would only understand later. His fingers were trembling uncontrollably. He tried to steady them against his lap, laughing it off, whispering something about being cold, though the event was indoors. The audience cheered, unaware that behind the charming laugh was a man holding himself together by sheer will. After that event, fans took to social media to praise how hardworking he was. Even when he's tired, he still smiles for us, one wrote. He never lets us down. But those same smiles, in hindsight, now look like a mask, a performance, even offstage. Behind the glow of the camera lights, Menglong was fading, his body and spirit worn thin by the pressure to be flawless. Friends close to the actor later revealed that he had been struggling with insomnia and severe exhaustion. He barely ate. He spent nights pacing his room, memorizing lines, re-recording scenes, redoing takes until they were perfect. He was a perfectionist, his greatest gift and his quietest curse. One director once said, Menglong doesn't stop until he collapses. He gives his soul to his craft, even if it costs him his peace. No one realized how literal that statement would become. In one of his final interviews, filmed just weeks before his passing, he was asked what happiness meant to him. He paused longer than usual before answering. Happiness, he repeated softly, eyes drifting away from the lens. It's being able to rest without guilt. He smiled after saying it, as though trying to lighten the tone. But that moment lingered, a haunting foreshadowing. The clip now circulates widely online, with fans replaying those words, hearing in them a sorrow they once ignored. During the same interview, he touched his chest briefly, pressing his hand there as if to steady his heartbeat. The interviewer thought he was nervous, but Yu's breathing was unsteady throughout the session. He coughed lightly, forced a grin, and apologized. Just tired, he said. The studio laughed with him. No one knew that behind that single phrase, just tired, was an ocean of despair. He had been just tired for months. The fame that millions envied had quietly consumed him. He was overworked, overstimulated, and emotionally drained. Those who loved him most noticed his withdrawal. He stopped replying to messages promptly, started canceling casual hangouts, choosing instead to stay alone. He said he was fine, one close friend shared after his passing, but his eyes didn't agree with his words. It was during one live stream, a few days before his death, that fans witnessed one of the most heartbreaking scenes in retrospect. Yu sat before the camera in a plain white shirt, his hair slightly disheveled, his smile faint. He interacted warmly with fans, thanked them for supporting his upcoming album, and even sang a short verse. Yet between words, there were long pauses, seconds of silence where he seemed lost in thought, eyes flickering as if somewhere else entirely. At one point, his hand trembled again while adjusting his microphone. "I think I've had too much coffee," he joked, chuckling softly. But his voice cracked. Fans spammed hearts and laughing emojis, never realizing he was barely holding himself together. After his death, investigators confirmed that Menglong had been battling severe emotional distress. His schedule had been relentless, his mental and physical health neglected in the chase for success. The people around him admired his dedication, but failed to see that his discipline had turned into self-destruction. Every interview, every concert, every performance became a test of endurance. He wasn't living anymore, he was performing life itself. In one of the final fan messages he left, pinned to his online account, you wrote, "I hope my fans know I'm always trying to be strong for you." That message, meant to reassure, now reads like a quiet farewell. It's painful to imagine that the same hands that waved to thousands of fans from a concert stage would later tremble under the weight of silence. The tragedy of Menglong's death is not just that he is gone, but that so many signs were there unnoticed. His trembling hands, his hesitant smiles, the moments his voice wavered. All clues lost beneath the glitter of fame. Cameras are merciless. They capture everything, even what we try to hide. In Yu's case, they caught the slow unraveling of a man whose light dimmed in real time. In the days following his passing, countless fans revisited his videos, noticing what they once overlooked. They shared clips with captions like he was asking for help, but we didn't see it. And look at his hands, he was fighting something invisible. Thousands of comments poured in, filled with grief, regret, and disbelief. People who once adored his strength were now mourning the fragility he hid so well. At the memorial concert held in his honor, one fan brought a handwritten sign that read, "We saw your hand tremble." We should have asked why. That single sentence captured the heartbreak of millions who wished they could turn back time. Menglong's story is now a reminder of the price of silence, the cost of pretending to be okay when you're not. The entertainment world often glorifies resilience, but few speak of the damage that comes with it. Behind every red carpet smile and flawless performance, there are human beings, exhausted, pressured, unseen. Yu's death forces a reckoning not just in his industry, but among fans too, that compassion must come before perfection, and that sometimes the smallest signs, a trembling hand, a tired laugh, are cries for help in disguise. Those who knew him best say he had a gentle heart, one that felt too deeply. He loved music because it let him say what words couldn't. His last song, recorded but unreleased, reportedly carries the same haunting sincerity that marked his final days. It said that in one line he sings, "If my hands shake, don't hold me back, just hold me close." Fans who've read that lyric claim it feels like his final message, a poetic echo of his pain. The trembling of Menglong's hand wasn't just a moment, it was a message, one that nobody heard until it was too late. In the world of flashing lights, scripted smiles, and endless performances, even pain had to look beautiful. And Yu, the man adored for his gentle presence and emotional depth, learned to disguise his suffering behind the very thing that made him famous, his grace. In the weeks leading up to his final appearance, the cracks beneath his charm grew more visible. His interviews were shorter, his laughter quieter. When he smiled, it didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Yet every time the red light of a camera blinked on, he straightened his posture, fixed his collar, and forced himself to be the man the world needed him to be. Bright, perfect, and unbreakable. But the truth is, he was breaking in plain sight. There's a clip that surfaced after his death, now viral across social media, showing him backstage moments before an interview. He sits in a chair, staring blankly at the floor as a makeup artist fixes his hair. A staff member jokes, "You look too serious, Menglong." He blinks, forces a small smile, and whispers, "I'm just trying not to shake." At that moment, his hands are clasped tightly together, his knuckles white. He releases them only when the director shouts, "We're live!" And just like that, the mask goes on. The trembling stops, or at least he hides it well enough. People often talk about how Menglong was born for the camera. But maybe that was part of the problem. He lived so long in front of the lens that he forgot how to exist without it. The world didn't see you, the human being who got tired, scared, and lonely. They only saw the image he worked tirelessly to protect. During his final fan meeting, there was a moment so hauntingly beautiful and painful that it now plays like a ghost on replay. A young fan stood up, holding a sign that read, "You make our lives brighter." You read it, smiled softly, and said, "As long as you're smiling, I'll keep shining." But as he said those words, his voice broke slightly. The camera zoomed in on his face. His eyes glistened, not from joy, but exhaustion. The trembling in his hand began again, and he quickly tucked it behind the microphone. Nobody saw it then, but the camera did. Later, that same clip would be slowed down, dissected frame by heartbroken fans. He was crying inside. One caption read, "We just didn't look close enough." After his passing, people began noticing details they had ignored before. The small gestures, the fleeting expressions. In one live performance, he touched his temple repeatedly, blinking hard as though fighting dizziness. During a photo shoot, he briefly leaned against a wall between takes, eyes closed, breathing heavily. And at a talk show appearance, when the host teased him about needing rest, he laughed and replied, "Rest? I'll do that when I'm gone." The audience laughed too. No one realized he was speaking a truth that would soon become prophecy. Those who worked with him recall his endless discipline. He was the first to arrive on set, the last to leave. He practiced his lines, even when everyone else had gone home. He demanded perfection, a colleague said. Even when his body begged him to stop, he wouldn't. That drive made him brilliant, but it also destroyed him. In his last music rehearsal, his producer noticed something unusual. You kept clenching and unclenching his hand as if it hurt. When asked, he simply smiled and said, "It's just nerves." But nerves can't hide despair, and exhaustion can't be cured by a smile. Those who watched him that night saw flashes of the old you, the warmth, the spark, but between each note there was a quiet heaviness. It was as if he was singing goodbye without saying the words. Fans now call that night the goodbye stage. The lighting, soft and golden, made it look like he was bathed in heaven's glow. And when he finished his song, he whispered something barely audible into the mic. "Thank you for loving me even when I couldn't love myself." No one caught it at the time. The sound engineer only noticed it later when reviewing the footage. It became one of the most replayed and heartbreaking quotes after his death. What many didn't know was that Menglong's pain wasn't sudden. It was layered, built over years of pressure, loneliness, and self-denial. The entertainment world adored him, but it also consumed him. He was expected to be perfect, to smile when he wanted to cry, to perform when he wanted to rest, to give everything while keeping nothing for himself. And when the applause faded, the silence in his dressing room became unbearable. There were whispers of him fainting on set, of health scares that were brushed aside. He kept saying he was fine, a staff member admitted, but his eyes told another story. He was praised for his professionalism, but behind that praise was a man begging for help in the only way he knew, through the trembling of his hands, through the cracks in his voice, through the fatigue he could no longer hide. The last footage of him, alive, shows him walking toward his car after a long shoot. He waves to fans waiting outside, smiling faintly, but his steps are slow. The camera pans down briefly, and again you can see it. His hand shakes as he lifts it for one final wave. That was the last time the world saw him. After the news of his death broke, millions of fans gathered online, mourning the man they thought they knew but never truly saw. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag we should have seen. Hashtag the hand that trembled. Hashtag justice for Menglong. People began rewatching his interviews, not as entertainment, but as evidence, proof that behind every moment of joy, there had been pain. One fan wrote, "He smiled for us even when he was dying inside. We should have told him that it's okay not to be perfect." Another shared, "I used to think his trembling was stage fright. Now I know it was his body screaming what his voice couldn't." In the months following his passing, a mural was painted in his memory, a giant portrait of you, smiling softly, his hand raised mid-wave. But this time, the artist captured the tremble, the humanity of it. Underneath, the words read, "Even when your hand shook, you still reached out." Yu Menglong's story is more than tragedy, it's reflection. It's the cruel truth that in a world obsessed with strength, we often overlook the signs of struggle. The trembling hand, the forced smile, the tired eyes. These are not flaws, they are warnings. And you carried those warnings in silence, until his silence became permanent. If the cameras had looked closer, if the fans had asked, if someone had listened, maybe things would be different. But all that remains now is the footage, the trembling hand frozen in time, and the reminder that pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it shakes quietly in the open, waiting for someone, anyone, to notice.